have noticed that I'm in a different location than I typically am when I do these videos. And the reason for that is because I am participating in the Surf Rider 5th of July beach cleanup like I do every year. And so since I was already at the beach, I thought I would take the opportunity to see what cool stuff is here at the beach. Now, a lot of the times the videos that I'm doing are located on the Puget Sound, so I thought this was a great opportunity to see what we could find in the Pacific Ocean. This is literally out on the West Coast, and unfortunately, because we're on the beach, I don't have as much access to some of those cool critters as I do in the Puget Sound, which has made this a bit of a challenge. But that's okay. I like to explore and challenge my curiosity, which is why this video is going to be talking about algae, specifically rockweed. I found a whole bunch of it while I was walking the beach and I was kind of curious. So let's go ahead and dive in to take a look. Have you ever tried looking something up based on what you think it would be called? Well, that's what I did for this algae, and it turns out I was wrong. It's not called pickleweed, but it's actually Pacific rockweed, and it's a type of algae. So if you didn't know, there are 3 classes of algae. There's green algae, there's brown algae, and red. And the Pacific rockweed is classified as a brown algae. This is the same category that kelp is in. When we are considering the number of species of rockweed that are found around the world, there are 20 to 25 known species of rockweed. But again, since this is the Pacific Northwest, let's narrow that scope down, and there's only 6 species that are found here in the Pacific Northwest. You would be correct if you assumed that their range was from Alaska to Central California. You can find them from the low to mid intertidal zone, and here's where their name comes into play. They're attached to rocks. Yep, that makes sense, Pacific rockweed. Now, I was curious because it's a pretty warm summer day here. As I found it, what kind of temperatures and salinities can these algae handle? When it comes to salinity, their optimal range is from 28 to 35 parts per thousand, but they can handle all the way down to 10 parts per thousand. That's brackish. And when it comes to temperature, 41 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit is what their optimal temperatures are. However, like I said, it's pretty warm here, and they can withstand the extreme summer heat as well as the freezing winters that we get here in the Pacific Northwest. When I make these videos, I talk about the diet of whatever species it is that I'm focusing on, and it seems strange to talk about the diet of rockweed, but rockweed is photosynthetic. It's able to use the sun to produce some of its food, but it also utilizes the nutrients in the water to make sure that it's getting everything that it needs. So what kind of predators are out there consuming rockweed? Well, as you might have guessed, it's a lot of herbivores. Things like snails, urchins, limpets, and even some crabs might be chowing down on this rockweed. But you might find other things like amphipods. You might have seen those in your filter socks when you're cleaning. Let's move on and talk a little bit about anatomy. We'll start at the base. The base of it is called the holdfast. This is where the rockweed attaches itself securely to those hard structures and rocks. Next up is the stipe. This allows the large structure of the rockweed to be flexible and move along in the waves as the surf moves it back and forth. Next up is the blade. Now, if you were to feel this, it's a rather tough, leathery structure, and it's important because, again, like that flexibility of the stipe, it helps it to withstand the waves in the surf zone. Now you can see here, every time I pull this down, it floats right back up. And yes, it is in part due to those bulbous tips, but it also is due to the air bladders, which are inside that you can't see. These are really important for the rockweed because it helps to keep it buoyant and near the surface so that it can perform its photosynthesis. All right, moving on are the fronds. These are the yellowish green parts at the end. In everything that I've learned about rockweed, I've got to say the reproduction, I think, is what's most fascinating. Those swollen green-yellow fronds are where the gametes are stored. And an individual is only going to develop that bumpy, pickle-like appearance once it becomes mature. So what you're able to see here is a bit of mucus that is coating the ends of those fronds. That plays a key role in the reproductive success. When mature, the gametes will be released from the swollen fronds as the tide falls and they begin to dry out. But remember, they're still coated by this mucus. So as the water returns, the sperm will find and fertilize the eggs thanks to that mucus that has kind of held them together. Now, after the eggs are fertilized, individuals are going to attach themselves to hard substrates where they'll continue to grow into adulthood. Because I thought that mucus was pretty interesting, let me tell you a little bit more about it before I wrap things up. This species of algae and many others are actually able to produce this layer of mucus on their surfaces, and they do it for a bunch of reasons. One is for hydration. It's going to help to prevent desiccation. Another reason that they might use it is for the ability that it has to protect themselves. It's going to reduce the intensity of the UV that's going to hit the surface of the algae when it's exposed. Something else about this mucus is that it's really not that palatable for predators, so it helps to prevent predation. And like I said, it's going to aid in reproduction in that the slime coat helps to keep the gametes in close proximity to each other. Although you might not be keeping rockweed in your tank at home, macroalgae tanks are on the rise, and there's more options than ever for different species to keep. If you're looking to purchase them, I highly recommend checking out Macro Lady. Amanda has a ton of different options, and you can purchase them in person or online. Now, if you have recently purchased your P&W custom tank and you need inspiration on how to aquascape it, definitely check out channels like Tyga Boy to get some inspiration. With this tiny tank on this big beach, I hope you've enjoyed learning about rockweed just as much as I have. I gotta say, this episode was a bit of a challenge for me, but I love discovering things and learning something new, which is what this series is all about. I hope you've had just as much fun as I have, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. All right, this is Hillary for Waterlogged on behalf of saltwateraquarium.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.